everyone, I'm Angelica Cheyenne, a.k.a. the Chocolate Diva, and today in the studio I have
Lamont Dozier Jr.
And we will be covering a lot of topics. Stay tuned. Happy Friday, everyone. You're listening to the Chocolate Diva Chronicles with me, Angelica Cheyenne, the Chocolate Diva. I hope your day has been as great as mine has been. This week, I am joined by a singer-songwriter and overall beautiful musician, Lamont Dozier Jr.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here today.
Good. Can you see yourself in the camera?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I am recording this episode for my radio show with my camera phone this time to see how it goes. So I'm switching it off between me and him just to make sure. I want to make sure he was in the shot, everybody. That's why I asked. So how are you today?
I'm doing fine. Great to be here. It's a beautiful day and, just getting our weekend almost on here and glad to be here on the Chocolate Diva show. It'll be fun.
The Chocolate Diva Chronicles, but I love it.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to have you. I remember, I want to say, is he your manager or your partner?
Well, he's our partner.
Okay.
Andre Pittman set this thing up for us, and he was supposed to be here today, but I'm going to speak on his behalf. But he's 1/3 of Enthrone Records Entertainment, and that label we share with Paris Escovedo, myself, and Andre Pittman. So
yes.
that's it's a new venture coming out, and it's going to be a label by musicians for musicians, and that's what we are putting together and trying to establish right now, and we're off to a running start, so it should be good, and you should be hearing some things from us this year in 2018.
I'm definitely here for it, and I was extremely shocked because when Andre reached out to me on Instagram, I was like, I get DMs often for business inquiries about the show, so I was looking into it, and I was like, oh, I'm sure. I thought it was a hoax, and I'm like, his partner's reaching out to me, a college radio host, for this interview. I'm sitting here with Lamont Dozier and Paris Escovedo. I'm so happy to meet with him in the future. Unfortunately, he had family obligations. He could not make it. However, the fact that they wanted to come, I was really flattered and honored. Oh, yeah. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having us. It's great.
Now, for my Fridays, I like to begin my Fridays, everyone knows, with my Fun Fact Fridays, which is kind of like just something that's unique about you, maybe not a lot of people know. So for your Fun Fact Friday, what can you tell our listeners? And myself, because I really want to know.
Oh, wow. Well, I like to roller skate, even though I don't do it that much. I like to bowl, even though I don't do it that much. Musicians are very busy, working musicians, and those are some of the things that I don't really get to do on the regular, but I love to do it. It's very relaxing. I love classical music, even though I do primarily R&B, jazz, soul. When you see me performing in the clubs of Los Angeles and what have you, you'll see me doing my thing, but I love sitting around listening to some Bach, some Chopin, some Mozart, Beethoven. You can hear it in the car, so that's some of the things people may not know, but yeah, that's a start.
Did you like to, this is cool because I used to watch Roll Bounce, and it was, if you ever seen Roll Bounce, it's like a 70s movie, bass movie. Yeah. I believe they were, I forgot what state they were in, but they left to go to roller skating rink. Yeah. So when I was coming up, I always was really wanting to learn how to roller skate. Now, obviously I didn't, just because I'm scared of falling, so I never indulged in roller skating. But did you like to attend roller skating rinks in your younger days?
I did actually. I belonged to like a Saturday morning league in Detroit, because I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Hey, and we would get up every morning, and I lived on the northwest side of Detroit, and we had the Northland roller skating rink. For our listeners out there, if you're familiar with the area, you know about the Northland. I think they're still in existence today. Okay. And so we go. I belonged to the youth league when I was like 7 or 8 years old. And you're going to fall, and you're going to get hit, knocked down, but it was a ball, and they would play all old school jams, and you just glide around and listen to the music. And I think that's why I like it too, because it was such a partnership to great music too. So I grew up listening to some great music and skating, so it was really great. What
was your favorite moves to do on the roller rink? Like when you skate?
Favorite moves? Well, that would until I had moves. I didn't have that many moves. I went forward. I would try to skate backwards. I fell a lot, but I had a lot of fun doing it. So, it was just having fun and, getting around the rink and what have you.
That's cool. That's kind of a lost art, at least not as much as it used to be. Obviously, there's people who still roller skates, and there's still roller skate derbies and all of that. But people don't congregate at the rinks anymore like they used to. So thank you for your fun fact, and also the classical thing. I'm not surprised. I think a lot of musicians indulge in classical music.
Well, I would think so.
Yeah.
Some of us are trained in it. My mom was a classical piano teacher, and so I got it at home a lot. But it's something that I would like to do. When I grew up in Detroit, I used to be working IT, and across the street from us was the DSO, the Detroit Symphony Orchestra Hall. And on our lunch breaks, they gave free listening. You could go hear them rehearse for free. So I would take my little lunch over there and sit, and you could hear the same shows that the audience was going to hear that evening. You hear them rehearsing for it. It was absolutely beautiful. So I came to love it. I came to develop several favorite composers of mine, and it was just one of those times where you could just escape. And it was really nice, beautiful music, and the power of being in the room with live musicians. And I get that now when I'm on stage in Los Angeles. But it's just great when you have a bunch of talented people coming together to make beautiful music. It's fantastic. So
now, when you were a kid, and I'm probing into your memories because in honor of, I'm sure you're familiar with Flashback Friday, right?
Yeah.
So when you were a kid, what was your favorite classical piece? I know when I was a kid, mine was I should know the composer. It's like the Mona Lisa, I think. It's something I can't remember, but it's like that was my favorite piece growing up. For you, what was your favorite classical piece?
Claire de Lune was great. I loved. Oh God, this is going to sound morbid. I love the Funeral March of Beethoven.
No.
It was amazing. I mean, it was so powerful, and so it was just it touched me, and I said, oh my God. And then I think he composed that when he was deaf, so it was
deaf as in he couldn't hear.
He could not hear at that point because he had lost his hearing, and he composed the last movements of his life without being able to hear the music. But he was such an adept musician. I think it was just like second nature for him, so.
Now that you let me know that fact that he was deaf when he composed that, I'm convinced people who maybe have a loss of one sense have a stronger sense of another. Like Stevie Wonder is blind, but how he's like a musical genius.
He's amazing.
I just think, God bless them in other areas is what I'm trying to say. Now, how old were you when you discovered you had an innate love for music?
Well, that's the thing. My mom put me on the organ and piano when I was like 4. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't really like it until I was later. Because, it was one of those situations they make you come downstairs, the relatives over, come play something. And you're like, oh my God, I got to go down and entertain. And that was being your job as a kid. You had to go down and press notes and impress the people and the grown-ups in the room. And but then I really liked it when I started singing in church and performing. And I got my first solo in church when I was 11, And I sang Jesus Can Work It Out. And he worked it out.
Would you mind singing a little something? Please. I always ask people who can sing, rap, whatever, to show off their vocal capabilities.
Oh my goodness. I'm not going to sing Jesus. Let me see something else.
Okay.
I love Stevie Wonder, so let me do Knocks Me Off My Feet.
Oh my God, love it. Go ahead.
I see us in the park, strolling the summer days of imaginings in my head and words from my heart, only told to the wind, felt even without being said. I don't want to bore you with my trouble, but there's something about your love that makes me weak and knocks me off my feet, knocks me off my feet. I don't want to bore you with it, oh honey, but I love you, I love you, I love you more and more, yeah. There's something about your love.
Yeah! Oh my goodness, okay, so the funny thing is, I did listen to your music. I know you do a lot of covers, you sing your own songs, write all of that.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised, but you know, he just sang. I love it.
On the Chocolate Diva Chronicles.
Yes, he did. And I'm so happy because that's like one of my favorite Stevie songs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And now my new favorite is Necula en Historia. So that's like my new favorite. I discovered that.
Mm-hmm.
So when you sang that, I was like, he has to sing the chorus. So, you sang the chorus, so I am satisfied. Amazing. Now, you sing music obviously beautifully.
Yeah.
What made you decide, I don't not only want to sing it, but I want to create it?
Well, the singing part, you know, that came just from, you know, doing it and singing with choirs and everything. But then when I found out I had a talent for songwriting, composing, and coming up with my own ideas, I think I was 11 by then. And coming from that situation with my dad being the songwriter he was at Motown Records, I would hear things that he worked on. And we would accompany him to the studio quite a bit. So we were privy to hearing a lot of hits and things that he worked on. Me and my sister at the time, as we were growing up in Detroit. But when I started to compose and write, and my mom gave me the encouragement, said, "Man, you know, that really sounds good. You need to really stick with that and develop it." And I started picking up different instruments, the piano, the drums, the little basses, things like that. I really started to go after it. And from the age of 15, I started submitting things to record companies, A&R companies, and through family, friends. I used to submit stuff through the Four Tops and Temptations. Hey, you guys need to do this. And, you know, everything had a kid-like approach to it. But as I got older, I began to, and got some life under my belt, I began to write adult-appropriate songs. But as far as the will, it seems to be when people are born with something, a gift like that, it's something that you just have to do. And you're going to do it. It has nothing to do with monetary or anything like that. It's just something in you that has to come out. And it was just one of those things I just wanted to stay with and develop. And that's how I started songwriting, you know, and sticking with it and really getting into the craft of it, listening to other people's songs, because Stevie was big, a big influence. My father was a big influence. And different performers, Marvin Gaye, people like that I really enjoyed their music. I began to study the craft, and that's how I really started getting into it.
Now, are you self-taught? I know you talk about coming from a musical background. Your mother was a classical, you know, pianist teacher, and I'm sure everyone's familiar with your father. But for you, did they send you to formal training on top of it, or is it just natural?
I had some formal training that I can't recall any of it right now.
Right.
But I learned the basic song structure, and that's not true. When I was I grew up in a summer program in Detroit called the Detroit Council of the Arts, and that was something that it was like summer jobs for kids. You could either clean up, or if you were artistically inclined, you could go act, dance, sing, and all that. So I went into the singing portion of it, and I took jazz vocal, and my teacher's Mickey Brayton, who she lives in New York now, but she travels the country doing different musicals and reviews, and she's a well-accredited artist in her own right. We used to study, Clifford Fears used to be a choreographer from New York and lived in Detroit and taught in Detroit. So I was under the tutelage of a lot of musical mentors that taught me the craft and different facets of the industry. So they really made an imprint on my life and how to pursue this career as a professional person out here, trying to make a living at it. So I did have some instruction as far as that. But and there's a lot of things you just innately just keep developing as you listen to other artists and just being immersed in it. I like to think it was osmosis, but when you're around that much music in your life, you just keep growing. You're going to keep growing. And I do believe if it's a thing in your life that you really want to do, if you want to do it and be good at it, just keep doing it. You know, a lot of people, I can't tell how many people I run into, I'm a singer and they don't sing. I'm a dancer and they don't dance. I said, where are you dancing? Because for me, it's like, if that's what you do, where are you at? Where are you doing it? How are you pursuing your craft? You know, and that's the only way you're going to really get proficient at it is by studying and looking at other people. And then you learn what works in front of an audience, what doesn't, because eventually you're going to have to take it out of the living room or whatever and take it to people that don't know you, like, you know, and you're going to have to really be good and entertain them and move them in a positive way. So that's what I did. I just dedicated myself to it.
I think that's very much true, especially with having to do whatever it is you're trying to better yourself at.
Yeah.
you know, but in regards to you singing and songwriting and things like that, when did you decide, okay, my songs are good enough that I start wanting to showcase? Because sometimes people get scared and they're like, I think I'm amazing, but I'm not ready for the rest of the world to see me because I might not be as amazing as I think. So when did you gain the confidence to say, you know what, I can really put it out there?
Well, the confidence really came from industry insiders. When I would approach the A&R people, they would say, "Oh man, your stuff is strong." So, and if I didn't get, if my song didn't get picked to go on the album or the CD or get released, it wasn't because the song wasn't good enough. It was because the politics of the artist or the producer that they hired, they wanted to get their material on the album, and you're going to run into that once you start dealing with this on a professional level. But that doesn't mean that your songwriting skills aren't proficient or that you're not good at what you do. You're going to really want to put it before people. That's what they do for a living, and they listen to songwriters, and you can go to publishers and people and really get critiqued with your music skills, your songwriting skills. I later on in life, I joined like BMI and other performance organizations that help songwriters and publishers, and they started to put me with different situations and stuff like that. And I've had occasions to be recorded and have things cut and all of that, but it really is the feedback that you're getting from the industry that you're getting into that, hey, you know, your stuff is good. You really need to stick with this or a collab and different things like that. So, yeah, so that's what you're going to want to do.
When did you write a song and what was it about? Like, when was your very first song you ever wrote? What was it about?
I have to laugh on that one. I'm laughing because I was 13 years old.
Was it for a lady?
Yeah.
Was for a girl? How did I know that?
How did you know?
13, preteen,
yes, the ladies are always the muse and the inspiration of the songwriters, you know.
Especially in that time.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was usually about someone that wasn't talking to me or didn't even know I was alive. The title of the song was Long Suppressed Desire.
Oh.
Yeah. And
at 13.
At 13.
That's very profound for someone only 13.
It was going to stay suppressed for quite some time. But anyway, it was Long Suppressed Desire, and I wrote that song. I was 13 years old, and I would take it to high school and play it and everything. I had the whole school singing it. And it was so funny, but that was like my really first good song. They had a verse, a bridge, chorus, all the structure was there, and it had a nice little hook to it and everything. And so I said, I think I got something. And then other people were like, oh man, you got to cut that. You got to release that and all of that. So they really liked the song. So that was encouraging to stay with it. And, you know, write more songs, write more songs about girlfriends you weren't going to get. But that's
did the girl that song was about, did she ever find out it was about her?
Probably not. Probably not. That's why it was a long desire. You know.
Oh, sometimes secret admiring songs are the best ones. Now, when it comes to making music in general, what is the brainstorming process for you?
Oh wow, there's really no one way. I mean, it's it could start with a beat or a rhythmic kind of it can come that way. For me, it's a very spiritual process, meaning that it comes from that source of creativity that I think touches all people that have that gift, and it can come through the words. Somebody may say something and a sentence may stand out of what they said, or I could be watching a movie and be inspired. I could be listening to other musicians and be inspired as well by what they're doing. So it's no one way that it comes. I could be diddling on the keyboard and I might like a nice chord progression that's going on, and then I say, I think it's something here and let me develop this. And then you try to match it with lyrics and what have you. Some songs can write themselves in a minute. Other songs, it may take months because you just need that one part that you're not getting. And that may come from just time. It may come from a collab. It may come from another person's perspective to help you complete that song. You know,
right.
I'm big about collabing and stuff. So we put our minds together, and then you get a great idea that you think the public is going to like. But it can come from a number of sources. Really, it's no one thing that it'll come from. So.
And that's amazing to hear, because I remember that when Lionel Richie got his award for something, he said that a true testament, or I don't know if he was meaning it that way, but a clear sign to know if you are a songwriter at heart is if, like you said, the rhythm is something that sparks something for you to write about.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's cool, as you said, sometimes a simple beat can give you an idea of a song.
It sure can, and it'll just be moving you, and you say, hey, you know, this would be good if I put this bass line with that beat, and then you start to build your song, and then you have something, and then you say, okay, now I got to break this pass here. Let me throw in a bridge or another kind of change in here. So, but it's nice. It works better. The process is much purer when it's some inspiration behind it.
Like
if you're trying like a lady. Or, any of that, when you're trying, I've never been successful with a mindset to go in, I'm going to write a hit. It has to be inspired. It has to be something that's pushing me to say, hey, you know, you need to do something here, or I'm thinking I'm hearing something here. It can't be motivated by something that has nothing to do with the creative process per se, you know, because it is really, for me, just I can be doing anything, and then an idea for a song will come. So I just love being inspired like that, because it's so pure and it's so rich, you know. And in the process, in and of itself, I tell guys all the time, fall in love with the process, man. You do it, you'll be very good at what you do. Just fall in love, dedicate yourself to the process.
Now, how do you break out of a brain fart? You know, if you're a writer, a songwriter, or you write essays, how do you he had to take a sip.
I gotta take a sip.
How do you?
I'm getting parched. Yes.
How do you break out of that? It's like, okay, I'm stuck. I have the chorus. I just can't come up with that next verse. How do you get past that?
Well, it depends on how greedy you want to be. If you want to keep the song for yourself. No, seriously. For me, if it's not coming through like I need it to come through and I'm stuck, I'll leave it alone. You know, I may have several song ideas going on at the same time. So what I'll do is, I'll say, well, let me jump to this song right now and let that go. Or I'll get up off the keyboard altogether and go do something else, and then come back to it that evening. And sometimes I'll get what I was looking for. Sometimes it gets so, you have to step outside of yourself and let it go, and then give it a rest, and then come back to it, revisit it, and then see if the channel is still open for receiving. And then sometimes out of nowhere, you'll just get what you were looking for. But when it gets like that, I think the best thing to do is not to push it or force it. Just back up from it and say, you know what, it's not happening. Let me go on to another song right now, or something I was working on, and then I'll come back to this.
Tell us from a true writer. My journalist professor said the same thing.
Oh.
So it works if you're a songwriter or a news writer. It's applicable to every writing profession pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
So you said you're hailing from Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
Now, how did the Detroit music scene mold your talent?
Oh, my God. How did the Detroit scene... You know it's prolific when you have to repeat the question. It molded my talent, because it was talented people everywhere. Everybody's little cousin could sing, dance, do something. So whatever you were doing, you better be good at doing it. And if you're going to charge people for it, you better be really good at it, because they could get it at free for home, or their little family member did it. They got my sister can sing like Shaka and all this stuff.
Right.
So you had a lot of that going on. But truthfully, it's just a very it's a large amount of talented people out of Detroit, and a lot of these cities is different. Like just the inner cities are brewing with very talented people. I'm sure the rural areas too, for people. The talent is all over. It has no respect of person. But it was a lot of talent shows when I was coming up in high school, as well as just coffee houses, people just jamming on the streets. I can't tell you how many garage bands jams that we had. People just, hey, fire up the barbecue grill. We're meeting at so-and-so's house, and the whole block would be over there. And we have wonderful musicians in Detroit. I mean, we would have, on my block alone, we have like Randy Jacobs, who plays with Dave Kaz and the Bone Shakers now, and then we'd have Ray Parker Jr. coming over and Gene.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, they would be at the garage band. So that's what you were dealing with when you showed up. It was pro musicians in the making, coming along and stuff. So
now, how did you individualize yourself? Because when you have that amount of talent in that, because Detroit is small.
Yeah.
Like it's not the biggest
big,
stage,
but it's small.
right?
Yeah.
It's big in terms of talent and how many great people come from there,
yeah.
but like geographically and location wise, it's small.
Yeah.
So how did you make yourself stand out?
Well, you have to be very good, and you practice and practice and practice. And then another thing, you didn't want to be like somebody else because everybody would knew who you were trying to be like, you know. So somewhere in all of that, you know, I think we all study the great artists that come before us, but you try to find out who you are in the mix of all of that. You know, you're going to study different musicians for technique. You're going to study different singers for dynamics and power and things you want to do with your voice. But somewhere in there, you have to let that go and find out who are you as an artist and stuff. And so the pressure was definitely on to come into your own. But the only way you come into your own, whatever you do, is to just keep doing it. So you can get that evolutionary breakthrough. It's like, oh, this is who I am as a writer. This is who I am as a musician. This is who I am as a singer. And this is how I express myself from the pack and put distance in between me and everybody else. And so it was pressure for people just to be very good. And out of that pressure, you saw the great musicians come out of Detroit. Greg Philliganes, Ray Parker Jr. I could go on and on and on.
Now, when did you have the epiphany and you realized this is my style? I found my individualized sound.
Well, I tell you, when I would go to that Detroit Council of the Arts and I would sing with all the other male singers, because they would group all the male singers together, you know, bass, baritone, second tenor, first tenor. And I was always coming out to be the strongest first tenor. And then I just had a unique little flow to my voice, and I just kept pressing that, and you know, and I just say, hey, this is me, you know, and then I guess you know you're onto something when people try to be like you, they can't be you. So
when people start imitating, you,
yeah, they start imitating
they
you.
bite your CeeLo, you like, hey.
Isn't that one of my runs? Come on, man. So anyway,
did you ever have to call anyone out like you stole my run?
No, because I always change it. I'll do something if I feel like if I hear footsteps on my style, I'll just change it and do something else. So
innovative.
Yeah, if you got it like that, then do it. Yeah, because you're always growing as an artist. You don't ever. I always tell people that's a ship that never reaches the dock. You know, you're always trying to improve yourself, and there's always room for improvement. And I think also you asked me about coming out of Detroit and how that affected me. You stay humble because there's always somebody coming up. You know, there's always somebody that you know, that's going to have something to offer. And I don't see myself as competing with anyone. I really do see talented people all link in the chain. You know, if you can do something and I can do something and they can do something, then we're all in this creative chain together trying to heal the world through our music and make things better. A lot of people don't see it that way, but that's the way I look at it, and that's very healthy for me because that just keeps me on a trajectory with no negativity.
You're in your own lane.
Yeah, you're just in your own lane and you're just rising up. But I am part of the whole. I am part of that musical community and family I feel is doing something very positive. And I don't get into this, I'm competing with another person. I think everybody's gift is special and they have something to offer. So that just keeps me, you know, let me be the best version of myself creatively as a musician and an artist. Let me just find how far I can go. You know? And
it seems like you're more competitive with yourself. Like you're trying to outdo yourself.
Oh yeah, because that's the hardest part as an artist. Because you know, just a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to do this play called Bumper Sticker, and we were critically acclaimed in the Hollywood Fringe Festival. And I had a couple of songs and parts in that, and the cast. It was just 8 of us, but the cast. If you guys are listening, you guys are fantastically talented.
It's still going on. I believe you can still buy tickets for like.
Well, the Hollywood Fringe Festival is, but Bumper Sticker, we wrapped in 2016, the summer 2016. And those guys, they're all doing their thing around the world and what have you, and rightfully so because they are very brilliantly talented bunch of people. Not to pat myself on the back, but it was a pleasure just working with people that lifted me because it had been a long time since I had done a musical. I've done musicals in Detroit. I was in the Wiz production and different things like that.
Wow, really?
And I played the Wiz, yeah.
Seriously? Oh my gosh!
To meet the Wizard.
Oh, my mom is gonna love that. She loves the Wiz. I watched it all the time when I was a little girl.
Oh yeah, and I played the Wiz, and But it had been some time between that and bumper sticker, so I came into the situation, and a good friend of mine, Gary Stockdale, who's one of the producers of the show, he said, Lamont, I really want your voice to be a part of this production, and I'm going to bring you in and help you, get acclimated to the music and everything. I said, Gary, man, it's been a long time, but I said, I'll give it a shot. But I had a very supportive cast that really pulled me along, and then by the time we went to Showtime, everything really came together. And I say that to make this point. As an artist, you have to keep challenging yourself. And that was a challenge. Sometimes you have to step out of your own box to grow. And I grew exponentially doing that play because it was something I hadn't done in a long time. It reacquainted me with a skill set I hadn't used in a long time. And that's what you have to do sometimes. You have to step out on a limb outside of your comfortability and say, listen, I may fail, I may whatever, but this is a departure from what I'm used to doing. I got to step out of that safe mode, so to speak. And it was very beneficial, and we had some great performances, and it just opened up another side of me that, you can do this as well. So that's what I say to people, man. As an artist, you're naturally going to want to challenge yourself, because that's through the challenges growth. Even no matter how scared you are, you will grow from it and you'll learn from it. So that's what you got to do.
That's great advice. I mean, it's always, to grow, you have to keep reinventing yourself,
Yes.
per se,
Yes.
and going for stuff that may not be as natural as what you used to.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been told a lot about that through my rearing growing up, and still am always reminded you got to outdo yourself every time.
Yeah.
So with that being said, bumper sticker, I want to delve a little bit into that. So kind of give us because I thought the tickets were still available, like you could still see showings, and I was doing research on it. But tell everyone kind of like the premise of bumper sticker.
The premise of bumper sticker was we embodied the characters of some of the bumper stickers that you see on people's cars. And that concept was, be it political, anti-abortion, pro-life, anti-Muslim. We were covering some heavy subjects, and racism and this of that nature, and going to war and all of this stuff, and implementing peace, and my child is this. You have those my child is honor school bumper stickers. We covered all of that stuff in the classism and the racisms and all the isms going on. And it's a beautiful play. The music is fantastic. And we just covered all of those viewpoints and how they affect the society we live in, and how we interact with one another, and how it can be beneficial or how it can be damaging if we're all in our own quarters and we've got our tribalism thing going on, and we're not understanding what the other person is saying. Sort of like what's going on now. But anyway, it really we were like, it punctuates what goes on in our society and what happens when we get so separated. And then it also shows in the end how beneficial it is for us to come apart, because we all share this humanity together. And it was, a lot of people came and checked it out, and it was a wonderful, wonderful play. It was really great, and a lot of people were moved by it as well. So I hope we can do a bigger production of it, bring it back to the people.
It seems like it's it can be well used.
Oh yeah,
in what's going on today.
Oh,
it's very applicable.
It would be perfect. Yes.
I can definitely, and that's also a cool concept, because you just never think when you see people's bumper stickers.
Mm-hmm.
The fact someone thought that I can transform this into a whole play.
Mm-hmm.
With that being kind of like the initiator, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is.
Because it was something like that, like bumper sticker cars, but it's like, no, it's a cool play on,
Oh yeah, it's one of those things where it's, we live in a soundbite society, and I guess when people bottom line it and they get the best line that describes how they feel about society or the situation, they put it on their car, and it's a one-liner, and you can look at that one-liner and it really gives you some synopsis of where they're coming from mentally or how they fit into things. And for us to put that to music and punctuate it and give it all the emotion, it was really something. It was a good play. It's a great play, and I hope we get an opportunity to do it.
Fingers crossed, because I'm interested. Yeah. I'm like, I actually want to see this, and I want to see it anyway, just because you were a part of it.
Yeah, you'll love it.
But it seems like just a really cool concept. Now, when did you perform your very first gig?
Ooh, my first gig. Ooh, that would be the one that you got paid for.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've done a lot of free venues, but the one that actually gave you monetary payment.
Oh God, I was 15, and that was also through the Detroit Council of the Arts. I was singing and playing the piano, and it was at the Ford Theater. I think they've closed the Ford now, but it was there, and I was up on stage, and they had some dancers going along, and I was playing and singing, and we did that, and I said, hey, I think I like this, especially when you can do something you love and get paid for it.
You're not really working. It's like you're working, but you're doing fun work.
So I said, when do we get to do this again? So
fast forward, you'll be doing this for life.
So and from that time on, I just continued to pursue it, but I pursued it because I loved it. The pay wasn't like through the roof or anything, but it gave you a chance to show the world what you could do, and it brought you a lot of joy, and it reinforced the pursuing this goal, the encouragement that you needed to keep going further, and that you were on to something, and that you were actually good at something. So at a young age, I was loving it.
Was it a good experience? Because some people have varied experiences for their first, time on stage.
Mine was a good experience. I think some of my worst experiences were issues where I wasn't getting paid. It was just on the way. I was a little kid, and I tried to sing, and they would say, "Man, you know what? You really stink." But those times, well, how can I tell the people? It really are. There's no failure, and there's success and failure. There's learning experiences, and I put it that way. And even when you're successful, if you can see it as a learning experience, that keeps you humble too. And even when you come short of your goal, that's a learning experience. That is not a no. All it says is that you got to work harder, but it is not a no. Keep doing what you're doing.
Inspirational.
Yeah.
Now, you perform many places, nightclubs, TV, productions.
Oh my God.
How does performing in nightclubs differ from performing in other venues?
Well, some of them have some similarities. When nightclubs and live theater share the commonality. If you're in the room with talented people, you have the benefit of seeing them put forth great moments of entertainment, and you were there, and if you weren't there, you missed it. When you're in the studio and you're trying to record a great performance, to me that seems more pressurized, because it's a specific thing that you're going for, and you have to, it has to be right with the recording and different elements and different feeling you're trying to achieve for a recording that's going to be with you always. When you're on stage, it's in that moment. And I love the stage because you're touching and moving people in that moment. And some are moved to tears, some are moved to joy, some stand up, some dance. You get an immediate audience reaction from what you're doing. So for me, that's a little bit different, other than being in a studio and trying to bring a song to life and trying to convey an idea. I enjoy both processes though, because when you have a great song and you're seeing it coming together and you're hearing it, that's wonderful, and you feel like just great that you've been blessed with such a gift. But then when you're on stage and you're getting that feedback, and even if the audience is quiet but you're in your zone, that's a great moment as well. So like I'd say, fall in love with the process, be it live, studio, whatever you do, just embrace it. Just believe that you're getting another opportunity to do what you love. So that's the difference between the different,
Right. Now, when did you start, I just want to ask, when did you start performing in nightclubs? Was it before you started doing TV production or after?
I would say shortly thereafter. We had this show in Detroit called the Saturday Night Music Machine. Okay, this preceded American Idol, all the stuff, the voice, everything. It was a vocal competition, and back then you had to sing live on the show, but you also had to make a video. So my first video I made was on that show, and that, dating myself, that show debuted in the 80s in Detroit, but it was telecast to the Illinois area, Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana. So we had that area that we were being out to. So it was millions of viewers watching the show, and so we had an occasion to make several appearances on there. And I didn't win the championship of that show either, but it was a great learning experience, and it gave me a lot of exposure. And from that, I started singing into the nightclubs of Detroit, and that was getting in front of people that did not know you at all. And they've got drinks, they're older, and their musical palette is very experienced, and they're listening to hear what you can do. Yeah. They have very favorite songs. You better sing my song right, and all this stuff. And you're going into a whole nother thing. But because you had prepped yourself and you had great musicians at your disposal, I really wasn't that worried. I just said, well, let me do this, and then I came to find a love for that as well.
Do you think that performing in nightclubs strengthens your stage presence compared to performing in other venues?
I think it does, just for the reasons I mentioned. You're performing in front of people, and it's up to you as an artist to satisfy the people, and not that you can satisfy everyone and make everyone happy. But what I'm saying is you can use it as a tool to find out what you're doing in your repertoire, whether it works or not, whether it's moving the people. Are they engaged? Are they looking at the television, or are they, tuning you out? Are they looking at their phone? And you really want to develop your craft to the point where they just, when you open up your mouth, they just, wait a minute, I'm going to put this phone down because the brother's singing or the sister's singing now, or he's singing my song.
Right.
Or I never heard someone sing it that way before. That's what you want to get to, because, music is a very powerful medium, and how we use it is up to us. And if, there's just no limits what we can do with it. But I just like to think that we can move people in a positive way. I think every time I step on stage, I'm trying to do something that they may not have heard before. And so I think that's what you have to do. You just really have to keep working at it. It comes back to that all the time. Yeah.
And I feel like I associate music with moods. For me, my mood dictates the music that I listen to. Mm-hmm. And I always love listening to old school music. Mm-hmm. I call it old school because I'm obviously a millennial, so it would be old school to me. However, I just like 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, that type of feel. And it just always makes you just feel good. So I understand why certain generations are so very adamant about their songs, because they ignite so much emotion that it's just like, don't mess up what I listen to, because this is like what gets me through my time,
Yeah, yeah, that's it, and I'm so glad that you've discovered this music, because
courtesy of my mother.
It is great music. The lyrics are meaningful, and we could compare it to today's music and all of that stuff, but you really can't, because it's coming from a different place, and the way it was produced is different. We can get into a discussion about that, but that's at the core of why it's different, and different from what's going on today.
Now, because it's so cool when people perform in clubs, because I feel like it's so intimate, and I was just discussing with one of my other guests, I watched the movie, I'm not sure if you're familiar, Idlewild. So that, and you remember the scene where Macy Gray was like kind of booing Paula Patton. So I always imagine that nightclubs are in that fashion. Now, obviously, this is not the 20s, so they're not as smoky and as possibly aggressive for the audience.
But the booing is based on a real story.
Right. So for you, I feel like people who extensively perform anywhere, especially a certain particular place, for you, clubs have their club that they love to perform in. Maybe they know the people. Maybe they gain a camaraderie around the people who are in regular attendance. So for you, what were your favorite nightclubs to perform in, and why?
Oh, wow. Well, this is great. I get to give a shout out to some clubs that I closed, but Cafe Cordial in Ventura was my spot, as it was the spot for a lot of musicians, because it was a pro jam hang. I came out to LA in 2004. Now, my parents, my dad lived out in L.A. From '73 on, and so my parents divorced early, but we would come out and spend the summers in California, and but as I lived around the United States, and then I made my way back to California in 2004, and then I went to Cafe Cordial, and at the